Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AF Talk. Brian Fisher is my name, 888-589-8840. You know, we talked about that Muslim terrorist attack in London yesterday, or earlier this week. I think it was on Wednesday. Two Muslims shouting Allahu Akbar. We are waging perpetual war against you. You're never going to be safe. Said that into the cameras. Bystanders watching this savagery take place, apparently doing nothing to intervene. And, of course, they're disarmed, so they got no way to stop these guys with a weapon because that's a gun-free zone. So that just shows you what happens. When you don't have a gun and the other guy's got a machete, good luck with that program. They cut the guy's head off, or at least tried to decapitate him. And they stood there, wait for the police to show up, and are asking bystanders to take their picture, taping themselves, saying, you will never be safe. We're coming after you. We're going to wage perpetual war. And the meme out there is that everybody's a rogue Muslim. This isn't a part of anything larger. This is just rogue guys, lone rangers, kind of going off on their own. They're even trying to say that about the Fort Hood massacre in 2009. That's the official position of a top Army attorney. It was, quote, a criminal act of a single individual. The available evidence does not support a finding that the shooting at Fort Hood was an act of international terrorism, despite the fact that this guy was being trained by Anwar al-Awlaki, despite the fact that he gives that presentation at Walter Reed Hospital about how he is a Muslim first and a American citizen and soldier second. One of the problems you have over there in Sweden, I mentioned these riots that are taking place, and if you hear any news stories about these riots in Stockholm, about cars being burned and restaurants being torched and police being attacked and police stations being set on fire, you are looking at the work of Muslims. Now, the mainstream media will not tell you that, but these are Muslim youths who are doing this in Stockholm 5 nights now in a row. This has been going on. They're tearing through suburbs, smashing windows, burning cars in the country's worst outbreak of violence in years. 6 vehicles torched late on Thursday. Firefighters are putting out flames that engulfed several cars in a school in Muslim-dominated areas of Stockholm. Night before, fire brigades called to some 90 different blazes on the 4th night of violence. Muslim youths torched over 30 cars in 15 neighborhoods along with a restaurant. Stockholm firefighters busy throughout the night, saying they had never before seen so many fires raging at the same time, up to 90 of them. And I wonder if Marco Rubio is listening to this. Here's this paragraph. This is a piece. What's this from? This is from RussiaToday.com. They don't use the word Muslim anywhere themselves. For years, Sweden, one of Europe's most tranquil countries, famous for its attractive immigration policies and generous welfare system, has been accepting an influx of immigrants, Muslim immigrants, the Russian Today doesn't tell you, which now make up about 15% of its population. These migrants have failed to integrate into Swedish society. And the guy says, look, this isn't a problem of them not being treated well here. In Sweden, one of the Swedish politicians said, in Sweden, you've got welfare, access to the educational system up to the university level. You got access to public transport. You have libraries. You have health care, to everything. And still they feel that they need to riot through stones and Molotov cocktails. It's ridiculous. So in other words, there's no economic reason for them. It's because of their ideology. The problem is not from the Swedish government or from the Swedish people. The last 20 years or so, we have seen so many immigrants coming to Sweden that really don't like Sweden. They do not want to integrate or assimilate. They don't want to become Swedes. They want to maintain their own culture, their own values, their own tradition, their own religious ideology. They do not want to live in Swedish society, working and paying taxes and all that bourgeois, capitalistic, Western stuff. The people come here now. Listen to this, Marco Rubio. The people come here now because they know that Sweden will give them money for nothing. They don't have to work. They don't have to pay taxes. They can just stay here and get a lot of money. That is really a problem. Now, clip 3, this is Chris Hayes, MSNBC, talking with Martin Bashir. And again, this whole meme This isn't connected to anything larger. This is just these Lone Rangers going rogue. Let's listen.
Oh, and this, I thought that was such an important point. He says at one point, we cannot allow any group of thugs that calls itself Al-Qaeda to bait us into an endless war. And the point of it is the Tsarnaev brothers, who the vice president called knockoff jihadis, these two suspects, I mean, hard to say suspects when you see them killing someone on camera, in London, they may say that they're some affiliate of something. These are just murderers. These are murderers.
So saying, look, these guys are just wacko. They're lunatics. They're just off their rockers. And they're not connected to anything larger. That's the whole idea. They're not connected to any larger activity, any larger movement. But, and this is what the UK wants us to believe. But let me ask you this question. I told you about this yesterday. When these guys killed a soldier, broad daylight, middle of the street, 2:30 in the afternoon, cut his head off with machetes. The UK is out there saying, hey, nothing to see here. These guys are just wacko, murderous criminals acting all on their alone. Nothing to worry about here, not connected to anything larger. Then why in the world did they tell every British soldier, don't go out in public wearing your uniform? Don't go anywhere in public wearing your uniform. I mean, so they make it very clear that they don't even believe the swill that they're trying to dispatch to the public. Nothing to see here. Lone Rangers. And why? If they're just Lone Rangers, they both of them got shot down. Nothing to worry about. Game over. Crisis over. Go back about your business. Instead, they're out there telling their own soldiers, don't go out in public on your own soil in British uniform. Now, here is President Obama. Same theme, same meme. These are knockoff jihadis, not connected to anything larger. This is President Obama at the National Defense University just yesterday. Let's listen.
Deranged or alienated individuals, often U.S. citizens or legal residents, can do enormous damage, particularly when inspired by larger notions of violent jihad. And that pull towards extremism appears to have led to the shooting at Fort Hood and the bombing of the Boston Marathon.
Now, one last comment I want to make here. These guys are crazy. They're wacko. They're fringe. They're lunatics. They're deranged, according to President Obama. They are alienated individuals. Well, let me ask you this. Now, if these guys are not following the precepts of Islam, then maybe this explanation is right. Maybe this is just a matter of people being lunatics, being deranged, being crazy, being insane. But think about this for a minute. If they are doing what their religion teaches them to do, if they are not distorting Islam, but are displaying Islam, they are portraying Islam. In fact, I've got a tweet that Jeff Reed sent me from Al-Shabaab, where Al-Shabaab is saying, look, this is not a distortion of Islam. They are portraying Islam. It's not a betrayal of Islam. This is from Al-Shabaab. It's not a betrayal of Islam, but rather a portrayal of Islam. So they are doing what Islam teaches them to do. Think what that means. That means that President Obama, Joe Biden, the Prime Minister of Britain, are saying that you've got to be a lunatic to believe in Islam. Do you understand the significance of that? They are saying you've got to be a crazy person to believe in the religion of Islam. There's got to be something wrong with you mentally to describe to the tenets and the precepts of Islam. It by definition. So what they're saying, they don't even realize what they're saying. But they are saying that belief in Islam is a form of mental illness. It is a mental disorder. That's what the president is saying, Joe Biden is saying, the Prime Minister of the UK. Well, let's grab some phone calls. Let's go to David, Lake Charles, Louisiana. David, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hello. Hi, Brian.
Hey.
I am a pastor here in Lake Charles for about 7 years, and I can honestly say I listen to you all the time as part of my sermon preparation.
Oh, wow.
And I'm serious because, you know, we're busy. You've been a pastor. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And your show, Focal Point, is named the right, you get right to the point. You focus on the point. I can get my information, and it helps me, you know, really be able to speak to the things that are happening in this day. And I just want to say thank you for that. And I think I speak for a lot of pastors that rely on you to be able to bring us the correct information, and then we can we can take it and we can mix it with the Scripture and the Word of God, and we can deliver it to our congregation. So I want to thank you for that. And I had a quick comment and a question for you.
Yes, sir.
My comment was, yesterday I tried to call, I couldn't get in, but I had, this might sound cruel, but I wrote off the Boy Scouts as soon as they took a vote. If they have to vote on this, then I, as an organization, I wouldn't. It'd be like my church voting whether or not we're going to start ordaining homosexuals. It's like you have to vote for that.
Yeah, if you're putting something like that up to a vote, you've already sort of abandoned your foundational principles.
Exactly.
Well,
I don't know if I was being too cruel, but that's really honestly how I felt about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a profound insight, particularly since just a year ago, last summer, the leadership of the Boy Scouts unanimously affirmed their standard policy on homosexuality, and then they fell victim to homosexual activists and to the members of their board that are pushing the homosexual agenda, and wound up putting this thing to a vote just 6-8 months later. Well, that's a very good observation, David. Just the fact that they had the vote, that tells you that they've gone off reservation on their value system. Well, listen, David, I appreciate that. Thank you for your very kind words. I appreciate that very, very much. Let's grab one quick call if we can. Let's go to Kathy, Cleveland, Texas. Kathy, I've got about 30 seconds. What's on your mind?
Yes. Hi, David. I was, Brian, I'm sorry. I was shocked by your comment about the work with the Latina girls. I'm Latina. I'm a member of a small Latino non-denominational church here in Cleveland, and we have a solution to risky behavior. It's called the Holy Bible.
Well, good for you. And you wonder, Kathy, and thank you for your call. I appreciate that. You just wonder, all of these social dysfunctions, they trace back to moral values. That's where they go right back to. And what Kathy's saying, look, if we were inculcating, if we had the 10 Commandments back up on the walls of our schools and we had school teachers reminding them that this is the foundation of morality, this is the foundation of Western civilization, this is the foundation of Western jurisprudence, part of that is sexual fidelity, thou shalt not commit adultery. That's a biblical standard, a moral standard, an American standard. Wouldn't have the problems we're having today. Focal Point AFR Talk.